This video is for documentation purposes. I had an experience while watching the most recent installment of Dragons Rising that I feel must be recorded and shared. This moment was so poorly done that I wasn't mad at it, I wasn't disappointed, I wasn't even really confused. My gut reaction was denial. For like 15 minutes straight, I did not believe this moment was real. So let me break it down for you. Season 3 of Dragons Rising is largely about one of our main protagonists, Eren. At the end of last season, Eren decided to team up with our bad guy, Roz, to reverse various wrongs in the world, including the supposed death of Eren's parents. But in order to do that, they would be reforming reality from scratch. It's a Hawkmoth situation.
Evilize him!
Part 1 shows us Eren being pulled further into the dark and deceitful methods of Roz, while the world seems to bombard him with reminders of the value of having virtue and being a kind person, something he doesn't necessarily seem to be struggling with, but you know. At the midpoint of the season, Eren finally finds it within himself to sort of forgive Lloyd, our leader of the good guys who unintentionally drove him away, and whose major flaw, I guess, was deprioritizing finding Eren's parents and making false promises surrounding the matter in maybe some off-screen scenes in between seasons which are implied to perhaps exist.
I should have made finding your parents a higher priority.
This whole plotline is such a mess. However, despite now being committed to his values as a good person, Eren still thinks that Roz is the only one who can help him get his parents back, and so decides to still stick with him. It is at this point that our other main protagonist, Sora, decides to join him, partially to watch out for him, partially to tip the balance of power in Roz's travel party, and mostly because she trusts her friend and wants to stand by him no matter what.
Together forever, right?
This is a really cool move on Sora's part and completes this little arc that she's been on, so this is really good. Now, there are a couple of routes I would expect them to take from here. Running under the assumption that Eren is going to make his way back to the main team, we're either going to get a plotline where Sora is logically able to convince Eren to come back. Roz is obviously evil. The ninja are equally willing to help you get your parents back. Roz has secret ulterior motives that he's been hiding from you, that sort of thing.
Do you really trust that Roz isn't lying?
Or alternatively, we as audience members actually know that Eren's parents are alive. Some of our other characters are out looking for them right now. So maybe our two plot lines collide, Eren finds out that his parents are alive, his reasons for teaming up with Roz cease to exist, and we exit out of the plot line that way. These seem like the most obvious paths to me, given what we have so far, but what they did instead is actually really cool. In order to reform reality as they please, our group has to find a number of MacGuffins. Roz has only managed to get his hands on one so far, and they are currently looking to get a second one. So they make their way to this forge in the underworld where they're going to create magical weapon number 2, and Roz goes, "All right, time to kill your friend."
How did they get back out?
They don't.
Huh?
And Eren goes, "What?" And the audience goes, "What?" And Roz is like, "You heard me."
Rather it was you, Eren.
Turns out the only reason he even let Sora come along is that they need a human sacrifice in order to create magical MacGuffin number 2.
I thought you needed my help.
That's true. In a way.
From a certain point of view.
Now, this is a fantastic setup. There are several pieces at play here. First is the clear breaking point presented. In order to obtain this powerful and plot progressing tool, one of our characters has to die.
Someone is going into that casket. You or her.
These three characters remaining alive and Roz progressing in his plan are no longer things which can coexist. They are alone in the depths of the underworld, a location with no other living beings around, meaning if anyone walks out of here with an awesome extra power-up, a different one of our main characters has to die. These are our two main protagonists and our main villain that we're talking about here. These are huge stakes. Second, Roz is still presenting this as a choice on Aaron's part.
Using this forge is the only way to save your parents.
We're not getting some dumb reveal that Roz was extra deceitful or lied to Aaron about something important or plans to double-cross him, which then causes Aaron to go running back to the good guys. He has held up his end of the bargain perfectly well.
Have I ever steered you wrong? Have the strength to save your family.
We also don't get the easy out that Aaron's parents show up, making the whole matter moot. Aaron has to make the difficult choice of weighing his own morals. This is what you say you want. You want your parents back. You'll stop at nothing to get your parents back. Is this trade-off worth it to you? And Aaron gets this dose of reality as he realizes maybe there are things more important in my life than getting my parents back.
Sora is my family too.
So Aaron makes his decision and he stands with Sora to definitively end things with Roz. There's this big showdown action sequence in the underworld. It's great. And once they escape, Aaron is finally forced to face the fact that his parents are gone. I mean, they're not, but he doesn't know that. And he finally allows himself to mourn their loss instead of willingly living in this desperate denial, allowing him to avoid the sorrow that's been looming over him. I was legitimately so happy about this. It felt so cathartic to see them go down this route. They go with the moral that has the most potential for theoretical layers and depth to it. It's euphoric. It's a wonderful feeling to be pleasantly surprised like that.
They're gone. They're gone forever.
But like, to be clear, if this were the path they were going to go down for Aaron's arc, we should have had a scene where Sora presses Aaron on if this is what he really wants to do, where his morals are actually lying. Is this what his parents would want him to do? Maybe some displays where his insistence that he needs to resurrect his dead parents is framed more as an unhealthy obsession, like it is. Maybe a few scenes where Aaron is clearly in denial about the negative effects of his actions, or about his avoiding the grieving process. Anything to develop the idea before we get to its resolution. But I mean, the end point is still the one that I wanted, so that's a win. I'm having a great time. Season 3 is a blast.
So what do you have on me? Nothing. What, attempted murder?
The kids trap Roz under some rubble to escape, and the question of what happens with the forge is left unresolved. This leaves us with a couple of options. Maybe the fight will continue at a later time as Roz secretly pursues them, or the kids will come with backup later to try and stop Roz. Of course, option 3 of Roz not getting the icon and going rage mode because of it is still on the table. There's a version of that where Roz vows vengeance on Aaron, and that comes in the form of targeting specific members of the team in order to complete the ritual. Like, he is now stuck on the idea that he wants the soul of this new weapon to be one of Aaron's allies, specifically to mess with him. That could be interesting. Obviously, our team is going to want to stop Roz if they can. Maybe it's purposefully being pushed towards the end of the season so that the sacrifice has the most impact. But this whole forge plot point does have to come back into play somehow. I think there's already a lot of missed potential in not resolving it in the moment when the momentum is high, but maybe they've got something really cool planned. I don't know. So I watch the next episode. Nothing on Roz. I go to the next episode, and this is what we see. At first, I am confused, but I quickly start to put the pieces together, and my main thought is, oh no, I have just spoiled it for myself. Let me explain. The second half of this season was leaked really early online, and I committed to myself that I was not going to watch it until it officially released on Netflix. And here I am, watching the new season. There's a plot point where a major character death is hinted to be happening soon, but hasn't been mentioned in a full episode. I start the next episode, see this close-up on very identifiable, unique pieces of clothing that imply that someone specific has just died, and And my, I think, very normal reaction to seeing that series of images is, oh, I have just accidentally skipped an episode. To me, this seems like such an out of nowhere shot to open the episode if we weren't already in this location end of last episode. It presents itself as if it's a continuation of something, not like we're coming back to a plot line that we had left behind for a little bit. In my mind, I have obviously somehow skipped a big battle episode at the Forge, and it ended in this shocking death at the end of the episode, and this is the stinger at the beginning of the next episode to remind us what just happened without having to show the death again. Like, that's what this framing looks like, right? I'm not crazy for thinking this. Please tell me somebody else had this same thought. There is emphasis on the items as if we should recognize them. And the real kicker is, I recognize one of them, the most important one, the first one, the hat. We have seen this hat before in the show being worn by a character who is particularly important to the plot right now. I thought I had just spoiled for myself the fact that Roz kills Aaron's parents in order to get the next dragon icon. I know Aaron's dad doesn't wear the hat normally, but we saw it in the flashback last season. It wouldn't be out of question for him to have the hat on him or for it to somehow come up again within the span of an episode. Aaron even reunited with his parents in our little in-between episode, so they are now a part of the party that has unfinished business at the Forge. There was a lot of emphasis put on the detective connection that Aaron has with his parents last season. This would be an easily identifiable piece of clothing to signify their relationship. And maybe this is like his mom's purse too. Like, this makes some amount of sense, right? I feel like these aren't crazy logical leaps to be making. So I'm sitting there thinking that I somehow like double clicked or something and skipped an episode. I pause it immediately because I don't want any more spoilers. I back out, go to the episode list, manually select the correct episode, and try it again. Same thing starts playing. Now, in the very back of my mind, I think there has to be part of me that does theoretically understand it is possible that we have just jumped forward in time to the unexplained death of a random no-name character to resolve this huge plot point. A character who happened to have a piece of clothing identical to something one of our plot important characters has. But that would be such an illogical writing, framing, pacing, editing decision that can't possibly be it. And let me tell you, boy am I a long way from accepting that as a real possibility. I, of course, instead think that I have somehow made the same mistake twice. So I back out again, manually count out the episode numbers, make sure that this episode is the one which follows the previous episode which I watched. Click that one. Same thing starts playing. At this point, I have to assume this is not an error on my part, but maybe it's a labeling mistake. Maybe the episodes have just been uploaded in the incorrect order. We all know that the rollouts for this show have been fraught with problems in the past, so that's probably it. So I look up the title list online, because that's been out for a while now, and I compare it to the titles that they have. No, those all seem to match up. Well, surely then it's just that this episode has been mistitled. So I decide to skip forward just past the opening credits to check what the physical title embedded into the video is. Nope, that matches too. So at this point, I have to come to terms with the fact that this series of images is in fact the next thing to follow in the story. I am running out of options to explain what I'm seeing here. You might think that that would be the breaking point, that my denial would finally be forced to shatter. But no, it is then that I realize my fatal flaw. I have been too impatient. See, a lot of TV shows will do this thing where they skip forward in time to the climax of an episode to show you that something really exciting happens and get you hooked. And then after the credits roll, it'll cut to like 24 hours earlier or whatever, and you get to see the process of how that insane series of circumstances came to unfold. A lot of times they'll do this for fake out deaths or short-lived double crosses to give them a little more time to maybe have some impact. So maybe that's what's happening here, right? Like, surely if I just keep watching, we will get that title card telling us there's been a time skip and all will be revealed throughout the course of the episode. Boy, do I feel like an idiot for not realizing this sooner. Here I am restarting the episode a bunch of times when all I had to do was like watch a minute and it would explain everything. I'm so glad I've figured it out. So I let the episode play. As the scene continues, I very quickly start losing hope in this theory. This is not paced very much like the start of a time skip episode stinger. Also, no one else seems to be here. If this were the end of a long battle confrontation, if Aaron's parents were killed here, I would expect someone to be there to see it. So it's not looking great. I sit through the opening credits and the time skip title card never comes. I should have realized it wouldn't. I had already been skipping around looking for a title card. And as the episode continues to play, I am forced back around to my starting point. Surely I have made some sort of mistake here. There is no way that this is how this series of events plays out. The reason this doesn't make sense is that at some point in the previous episode, my eyes just glazed over and I completely missed the very clear explanation for whatever is happening here. Surely there was some sort of short Roz scene that I just completely blacked out for. I exit out one last time. I go to the previous episode and scrub through looking for Roz. He's not there. And as I let the next episode start playing, for the first time, I am just forced to sit there and accept that this is intentional. This is how someone decided to tell a story. A decision so bad, I couldn't even bring myself to believe it was a decision anyone possibly could have made. So for those of you who have not caught on yet, Roz, I guess, killed some random civilian who happened to be wearing a detective hat off screen in order to get his shiny new MacGuffin.
I've done it.
This feels like a writing crime. We set up the stakes. We've got 3 main characters, and one of them has to die in order to get this MacGuffin. We even placed ourselves in an environment where getting someone else to die was off the table. This is actually what happens. I have rewatched these scenes several times. I have watched other people's videos talking about this plot point to see if maybe this was some background character I had forgotten about. Nobody seems to know who this person is. The wiki doesn't give me any new clues. It's just some random person in a detective hat we know nothing about that gets killed off screen to resolve this huge plot point. This is the end of Aaron's multi-season arc, an ultimate villainous act to make Roz an unredeemable big bad. The writers set their stakes.
You or her.
And then they changed their mind, backed out, and gave us this scapegoat ex machina to try and resolve the situation. They couldn't even bother putting a face to the death. They had to minimize it as much as possible. I feel ridiculous pointing this out. But if you didn't have a character that you wanted to die in this moment, why did you write yourself a plot point where one of your characters had to die? That is all you, my dude. You're making the rules of this world. You're the one setting the stakes. You're the one digging this hole for yourself. You can change it if you want. I get that it needs to be something big enough that it makes Aaron question his allegiances, but you just cannot be lobbing around death threats like that with literally no follow through.
I've done it.
Maybe it requires Eren to shatter his goodness. Maybe it requires erasing someone's memories. Maybe it's a season 2 situation and it's a portal that traps you in an alternate dimension. You've got other things you can do if you don't want to kill someone. But you know, there are a bunch of people you could kill. First off, why not Eren's parents? That would be pretty soul-crushing, huh? Eren gets to see them again, only to have them ripped away a second time. Roz goes from his only hope to see them again to the person who separates them permanently. This goal, which has been central to the season, ends up being this massive failure. Maybe you just kill one of them off. I don't know. What about Egalt? He died earlier this season in a non-plot relevant way. Why not make it plot relevant? You could always do Zane. He's a good standby. I've even got the music all queued up for you if you need it. What about Mr. Frohickey? Geo. I really like the scene where Roz shows up at the monastery and it's just them, no ninja to help defend the place. It makes Roz feel intimidating. But how much scarier does that scene get if we know he's looking to kidnap a specimen to sacrifice? Heck, how about even just giving us a cold open, showing us whoever this random person was, just living their life, and how Roz entraps them into becoming a sacrifice. What they have given us is nothing. It's the most cop-out of cop-outs ever to cop out. A cop-out so bad it made me question my experience of watching the show. Completely shattering your viewer's immersion is not something that you want to do accidentally. And that got me thinking, how is it that you end up with a sequence that plays out the way this one does? And the conclusion I came to was, did they just forget? So the way that this plays out is that end of episode 14, Roz is trapped under rubble. He's not around for all of episode 15. Beginning of episode 16, we get an opening stinger of Roz getting the icon and gearing up to battle his way out of the underworld.
We must make it so the one who used the forge is no longer living.
You're welcome to try.
Now, we never end up seeing that. I haven't told you this yet, but the real kicker of this scene is that Roz doesn't show up in any of the rest of the episode.
As if we didn't have enough problems already.
You can't tell me this isn't meant to gaslight me into thinking there's some sort of error in the scene layout, in the export. Somebody edited something wrong here. This scene is not supposed to be here. We haven't talked about Roz in a full episode, and then randomly he shows up at the beginning of this one, and then just completely disappears again for the rest of the episode. What is happening? Why would you do this to me? Anyway, he's not in episode 17 either until the very end, where he menacingly comes out from behind a pillar. So what it seems like to me is that we have a question mark left at the end of episode 14 about what happens to Roz, and a surprise reveal of what's happened to him 3 episodes later, with this opening bit sort of awkwardly shoved in the middle of it all. At the front of an episode it holds no relevance for, like some sort of drive-by mass confusion hit and run. So here's my thought. Is it possible that they wrote out their episodes with a purposeful 3-episode gap, and then this epic reveal that Roz had escaped with the dragon icon, just completely forgetting that they didn't have someone sacrifice their life at the forge?
I've done it.
And then by the time everyone had recorded their lines and they made it to animation, they realized, oh crap, that's a massive plot hole. So then they just added this little bit of animation to imply that a death happened off screen. It would certainly explain a lot, but I also kind of don't think that's the case, because we do have a scene where Roz is talking with his master about, hey, I just got the icon, which wouldn't make sense if it didn't happen immediately following him getting the icon.
But at last, we have another Source Dragon icon.
So I do think that this was planned. I don't think that they missed a plot hole that big. But that kind of makes it worse, right? Like, if this messy, momentum-killing, brain-breaking storytelling was not the understandable result of last-minute alterations, but instead was in there from the beginning, that's worse, right? They decided on purpose to tell us that one of our main characters had to die to get this resource, and then proceeded to kill off a rando off screen after having not addressed the situation for a full episode. That was the choice that they made. They could have done anything. And that's what they did. Why are the Forbidden Five such a monumental waste of space after being hyped as the most dangerous threat of the whole show? Why was Cole's secret mission set up in season 1 him going to the desert, not knowing what to do, and then turning around and going home? That's what it was!
Why would Wu send me out there if I couldn't do anything about it? Fill you in later.
Why on earth would you make us wait over a season for that information? Why would that be what it was in the first place? What are we doing here? Why can't we follow through on our basic narrative promises? I don't understand. Anyway, I have officially fallen in love with Dragon's Rising as a show. I get it now. Season 3 made me cry. I'm having a ton of fun. Keep up the good work in season 4. Hurt my boy Frack and I will murder you. Okay, bye. Much love.